Welcome back to another edition of Cardboard Insights. We got a great opportunity to speak with a very special guest today. So for today, we are going to be speaking with a gentleman by the name of Jason Simonds. Jason is a consignment director over at Heritage Auctions, and we're going to be talking about some of the tips and tricks and some of the considerations points you should be thinking about when procuring sports cards from auction houses like Heritage. So without further ado, let's jump into it. Cardboard Insights with Jason Simonds at Heritage Auctions. All right, as promised, we're back with Jason from Heritage Auctions. Jason, how's everything going today? Keeping busy?
Very busy. Very busy.
So, I really appreciate you taking or carving out a couple of minutes of your time here. Got a couple of different questions here. I think, you're the perfect person who's going to be able to provide a certain level of expertise when it actually comes to, just more, reputable other auction houses that are out there. I think a lot of us are familiar with what eBay is, but I think, from let's just kind of say people that are either newer to the industry or just coming back into the industry for like the first time, like myself, and we're big avid collector in the 90s, and now I'm kind of back in here, and I think there's a tremendous amount of value that things like Heritage can actually kind of offer. Before we can dive into that here, you have a very interesting background. I also understand that a big player in the industry is a name by the name of Christie's, and you come from like that space here, and obviously, little over a year and a half over at Heritage.
Yeah, over a year. I started at Christie's. My background's in finance, so I was doing FP&A work, finance planning analysis. I was putting together the financials for Christie's, and I was always a dealer. I was always buying and selling sports cards. I collect sports cards. I was in it. I remember going to a national and being, 12 years old at Atlantic City floor back when. But, it was during COVID where you sort of boil down what you're doing for a living. And, I was stuck at home like everyone else. And I thought, it'd be fun to spend more time with sports cards. So I reached out to the guys at Heritage, and I knew some of them because I was a consignor. I was buying from them, obviously. I knew some of those guys. And that's where I started.
No, that's kind of great here. And I know that you are a consignment director, and I don't want to ask dumb questions, but I'm going to ask kind of a dumb question just so that we're all kind of on the same page. Yeah. If you don't mind, can you just give us just a little kind of little insight on what a consignment director is, and basically, what it actually means to work with somebody on consignment?
Sure. So, I'm a point of contact. Yeah. I bring in material. I play, a couple different hats. I'm a consignment director, and I am one of the guys who processes cards. For some auction houses and even Heritage, you'll have guys who bring in cards and then they dump them off with, the card guys, or bring in memorabilia. They bring in, this type of stuff, and they give them to someone to catalog it, to put together descriptions and write it out. But, my background's in cards. I work with guys who used to be graders at SGC, guys who've been in the hobby for 20, 50 years or so. And what we do is we bring in material. We work with consigners. We work with, people off the street. We work with anyone who has a question about their sports cards or sports items. We try to answer those questions. And if they're looking to sell, if they're looking to buy, if they're looking to do something with their collection, we try to help them in some way. And it's not always just bringing in material. Sometimes they are trying to figure out, what something's worth. Sometimes they have no intention of selling their material, but they just want to know where the current market value is. Some people are looking for appraisals. Some people are looking to purchase items, and you get everything in between. I get calls all the time asking me whether or not they should go to PSA or SGC or Beckett, or how much money they should spend. And so I spend a lot of time fielding inquiries where I'm just providing a hobby resource. And that's sort of what a lot of these auction houses do, and what a good consignment director should do.
No, that's kind of great, because I think a lot of people understand what the actual marketplace means, and how to actually buy stuff. However, it's almost like that informational piece, I think, gets lost in the shuffle. And that's the one thing that you really fleshed out in speaking with you, is that you're here to be a resource for people, whether it's just kind of like appraisals or some kind of advice, or almost like a little of a map of it or a game plan on what they should be doing with the collection, whether it's buy, sell, the whole type of a thing here. It's almost like you're kind of like a stockbroker, so to speak, only from a card perspective.
Yeah, no, and you get a lot of people who aren't active in the hobby. I deal with a lot of people who have collections from their childhood who are now in their 60s or 70s and who are wondering, what is this worth? What should I do with it? They understand that baseball cards or football cards or basketball cards now have value, but they don't know how much. And sometimes it's, 1980s Topps baseball and it doesn't have much value. And you can tell them that, but sometimes you see a lot of treasures and you try to walk them through the process of, if this was something that I had, this is sort of what I would do with it. So.
No, that's kind of interesting, and you kind of opened up the show, and where you alluded to the fact that you're busy. Now we met at the Hofstra card show,
right?
And I kind of saw firsthand, and I really thought it was interesting from the perspective of when you guys are setting up kind of at shows, you're not selling any product. However, you guys are in in-depth conversations with lines of people that are maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 people kind of deep.
I lost my voice.
I'm assuming that kind of happens on more than one occasion, so to speak, especially when you're doing Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, like the one that was kind of at Hofstra. And it really kind of opened up my eyes here, because when I go to shows, obviously you're looking to potentially buy some cool kind of pieces, but then there's also like a lot of people who are maybe looking to make some quick cash or flip over cards and sell their cards back to dealers.
Right.
However, we all know that, hey, if you need something that's quick, dealers they're a viable option. But we also know that they're only going to give you anywhere between, and I'm taking an educated guess here, what 40 to 70% of the most recent comps. It's always a very loosely defined term on what comps are. But that's the way that you're kind of looking at it, and where you guys take like a little bit of a different kind of approach, and where
we do.
I'm sorry. Yeah,
we do. So for Hofstra, for any of these shows, we go to a lot of shows. There are sports card shows all along everywhere in the country. There's going to be a sports card show, and we try to go to all the major ones. For me personally, I'm in New York, so I go to Hofstra. I go to the East Coast National, the one in Westchester. I go to Philly. I'll go to the National. Down in Dallas, we'll have a presence in Dallas. I think there's one in Toronto coming up that we're going to be at. There was one in Pittsburgh last weekend that we had a presence at. So, we don't measure our success at these shows by what we're selling or even what we're taking in, because a lot of people don't feel comfortable going to a show carrying around their collection. A lot of times the people who we're dealing with at shows are generally people who see an ad for a sports card show and like, what? I think it's time for me to talk to someone about sports cards. And usually when they're going to the show, they're not looking to talk to one person. They're looking to get as much information about what they have as possible. And so, you do have dealers who have a vested interest in purchasing this material, but then you also will have someone like us or, even like Golden or Leland's or any of these other auction houses where you'll have a consignment director, you'll have people present who are able to give some feedback on what these items might be worth. And if they're doing a good job, they'll be able to give sort of an unbiased opinion on what they would do with it. So it's not always going to be people who are bringing in material, because a lot of people don't feel comfortable. Some people are very, very protective. And, if they have a card that they think is worth $50,000, they might not want to bring it to a show because it's crowded and you hear these things and, you don't want to do that. You just want to go and get information. So a lot of the people I talked to didn't have the material with them. So you're talking almost hypothetically, but you explain who you are, you explain what type of collection it sounds like and what you would do with it. And then you give them their card and, half the time they reach back out to you and they stop in and get something done. Yeah.
No, because I think that other part of the equation is interesting to kind of point out here, because as a consignment director, it's almost like you guys it's in your best interest to help the owner of the material get the
Yes.
most for their product. While, all right, you know what, from a dealer perspective, it's like, it's got to be something in where there's got to be enough meat on the bone that they can kind of like
Right.
flip it and make it worth their while. Their interest isn't necessarily you, it's what type of profit they can really make off of it. And where what I think is the most appealing with things like Heritage is that you guys are taking a little bit of a different approach.
Right. And there are a lot of great dealers, and there's a lot of honest dealers in
Sure.
Heritage. We go into a lot of houses, and no collection is just, I have 4 1952 Topps Mantle cards.
Yeah.
Their collection is, I have these Mickey Mantle cards, I have these Willie Mays cards, and then I have this entire basement worth of crap. And so what our job is, we try not to cherry pick. We try to help as much as possible, but then it's impossible to take everything. We're not going to take your 1988 Topps set.
Yeah.
We're not going to take your 78 Topps baseball partial set, or that binder you have of 2008, Sweet Spot. So what we're going to do is we're going to try our best to take as much value as possible, and then we're not going to leave them high and dry. Sometimes we put them in touch with dealers who we work with, or dealers who we know will offer them a fair shake, and we try our best to put them in touch with people who would then be willing to wholesale or purchase the rest of the stuff, knowing that, or at least the seller now knows that they're not leaving money on the table. We tell them, listen, they're going to offer you 50% of what it's worth, but this stuff really isn't worth much, and it's not worth your time to go through. But that's just what you have to do. And sometimes we also refer them to other auction houses, local auction houses that, the guys who you'll sometimes see on live auctioneers who are very, very regional. They serve a great purpose on some of this stuff. And for sports cards, especially those 1980s sets, sometimes that's a great avenue for it. You don't need to be dealing with Heritage or Golden or any of these massive businesses that have, tens of thousands of Instagram followers and have people who are on Fox News talking about, their Gaudi fine. Some of these smaller auction houses are the perfect avenue to maximize how much money you're going to make. And, and if you're doing your job right as a consignment director, you're going to be pointing them in the direction of these other avenues as well and helping them along the way, especially if they're looking to liquidate what they have. You don't want to take everything and then never call them back.
Makes sense. Yeah. Do you kind of like, find it's fairly common that you kind of like, have to have difficult conversations with some of these, I guess, card owners, especially when you're walking into like a house and where they think, all right, my 88 Topps set, I don't care what you say is worth.
Every day. Every day.
And how do you approach that? How do you handle that?
I joke with my wife that my job is crushing the dreams of middle-aged men. Right. It's very easy to see a 1968 Topps Reggie Jackson rookie. Yeah. Perfect example. In a PSA 10, it's $1 million card. Every single collection has one. Every single collection from one of those childhood collections has one. It's not an uncommon card. It's a base card. It's a base card. It's like, they printed as many of those as they did, Bo Bichette 2020 Topps. They printed them. And so you see a PSA 10 sell for $1 million. And the difference between a 7 and a 10 to a layman isn't noticeable. Even experienced collectors get tripped up between a 6 to 7 or 7 and 8 or a 7 and a 9. But if you get a lot of phone calls where you say, "Oh, I saw you just sold this card, a 79 Gretzky. We sold a 79 Gretzky, OPG Gretzky, PSA 10 for almost $4 million. They ran it on ESPN." And I spent a month, the next month, fielding calls from every single person who owned one of those cards. And I had to break it to them that, a PSA 5 is $4,000 or so.
Yeah.
And it just blows their mind that there's such a difference between price of a 10 and, even a 10 and a 6 or a 10 and a 7. It's such a drop. So, you have to have those tough conversations, but you have to be honest. You have to be open and honest, because the last thing you want to do is someone comes to you with a 51 Bowman Mantle and this is a great example because I'm dealing with this right now. And this individual called up a couple different auction houses, and he sent me a picture of it, and I said, "That's gorgeous. I think it'll grade a 5." And I said a 5 is worth, I think it's worth $30,000 or so. I said 5's worth about $30,000. And this is how, and I'm walking through the auction process, and he was floored because he thought it was an 8. 8 is worth $400,000 or $500,000. I think we just sold one for like $450,000, and he was floored. He thought it was an 8, and he said, "Oh, I just talked to a guy over at another auction house, and he didn't disagree with the grade." And it's very easy to be talking to some of these people. You see the picture, and a $30,000 card is a great card to have in an auction. And you're talking to these people, and if they mention in passing that their price expectation is $500,000 because they think it's an 8, it's easy to ignore.
Bells are going off in the back of your mind.
Right. You just have to.
The conversation is coming. It's got to be had.
You have to be honest with them because the last thing you want to do is you don't want to have him think it's going to be a $500,000 card and then entrust that $500,000 card to you, and then you sell it for $30,000. Because the way that they'll look at it, unless you're honest with them from the beginning, the way that they'll look at it is that I lost them $470,000. So it's very easy to take that material in, get it graded, you put it in an auction, and then you just don't deal with the consignor. But you need to just be upfront and honest about it. And you might not win every consignment, but the ones that you do win, the ones that you're helping with, it's going to be a much smoother process.
Makes sense. No, I appreciate that here.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, well, I guess we've been talking a lot on the kind of selling side of things here, and the one thing that I always kind of thought about specifically from a buying side of thing is that you hear heritage, you hear kind of golden, and there's almost like this intimidating gorilla in the room here. Any advice or I guess sense of comfort you can provide people that, hey, when you're buying on auctions, like eBay is not the only game kind of in town here, and you shouldn't necessarily be intimidated or afraid, because although you do have a responsibility to help out the sellers as much as possible here, there's still some great value and some great deals to be found on golden and heritage and
phenomenal
some of the other auctions that you talked about as well.
Phenomenal value. You're absolutely right. It's not always going to be as straightforward as eBay. Everyone's comfortable with eBay. It goes down. There's a clock, and once it hits 0, you put in your bid and you win it. eBay has a buy it now option. Golden, heritage, they don't really have that. So when it comes to an auction, and there's buyer's premium, there are fees, it's a little bit different of a process, and there is a little bit more of a learning curve involved. But once you get the hang of it, it's a really, really, really fun experience to have. It's fun to participate in some of these auctions, and there's a lot of great value. For heritage, we have our monthly sales. So we'll have a sale every month or so, and these will be, our catalog type auctions. You'll see $2,000 cards, you'll see $20,000, you'll see $2 million cards. But then every week, every Sunday night for the past 20 years, we've had our Sunday internet sales. And I know a lot of people who every Sunday night they are on their computer bidding in these sales, because this is one of the good selling features for heritage when we go into these houses is, yes, you have this massive collection. We can help you with this $50,000 card. We can help you with these $5,000 cards. We can help you with these $500 cards. But then you have all this other stuff. And, this is the type of stuff where we can help you with it. If you're determined to sell it at an auction, make sure you maximize your value. We'll put this in an auction. It might take a little bit longer than putting it on eBay or dealing with a dealer, but if you'd like it in an auction, we'll help you facilitate that sale. And that's the type of stuff where we sell in these Sunday sales. So you'll see partial sets. You'll see, it might be a group of LeBron James graded or ungraded cards. You'll see groups of modern stuff, vintage stuff. This is where we're going to sell you a Hank Aaron single signed baseball. That's a $150, $200 item. You're not going to have that in a catalog sale. Golden's not going to run that by itself. We'll be able to run that by itself, and we'll put it in our sale. And what's great about buying autographs, buying memorabilia from Heritage or in any of these large auction houses is that this stuff has been looked at by experts. If you're in the market for a framed Tom Brady signed lithograph, you could look on eBay, but when you're dealing with eBay, sometimes you're dealing with people who you just don't know. You don't know what their background is. You don't know where they got this from. You don't know what the source is. But when you purchase from one of these larger auction houses, at least for Heritage, every single item's been authenticated, either by
So
Beckett
the whole
or
vetting
PS.
process is a
Every
big
item.
advantage and peace of mind to anybody who is
Right.
taking a look at these off-key but really interesting pieces.
Right, and you'll be able to purchase this stuff below retail for some of this stuff, like at least some of the autograph stuff. If you go into, I have collectors who specifically target our framed pieces because they could go to like a Mountain Memories and pay like $2,500 for a framed 8x10 of Tom Brady, or you can get it at closer to market value through us. So,
no, this is kind of could have been helpful, and
yeah.
we've been talking about a couple different things here. If you don't mind, here, can you anything that pops into the top of your mind with regards to the biggest differences that you actually see, say between you guys and like a Golden? Is it very similar, or do you kind of see some obvious differences in where, okay, you know what, if you're looking at something from perspective A, B, and C, I think Heritage is kind of a better fit, and not that I'm asking you to put people onto your competition, but do you see some other strengths that some of those guys might be doing that it's just not what you guys do?
So Golden does great marketing. I think that I like the guys at Golden a lot. I see them at shows, and they have such a strong presence in the modern market where they've gotten to the point where if you look at their auctions, it's almost all of it's single graded cards. You'll see the occasional set, you'll see the occasional, group of items, but like look at PWCC. PWCC doesn't sell ungraded material. Ungraded material requires card experts to look at it and to grade it. And, they have people who know cards, but it doesn't seem like they have the ability to process some of this ungraded material as effectively and as confidently as someone like Heritage. So Golden is getting to the point where they have a lot of graded material. They have a lot of single graded cards. But if you have a collection, and most collections aren't just single graded cards, you have these sets. You have a collection, Tom Brady collection that includes ungraded material. And a lot of collectors don't like to get cherry picked. They don't like to call up someone and say, oh, well, I'll take this and this and this, but like the rest of the stuff isn't for us. And, Heritage, we do our best to help you with the whole picture. I try to find out what the motivations are. If they're just trying to sell a few items because they're just looking to take some money off the table, great. We'll take a few items and we'll help you take some money off the table. But if you are coming to us because you're just done, this no longer brings you joy, you're trying to sell everything, we'll do what we can to sell everything. You go to our auctions, you go to our Sunday sales, you go to our catalog sales, you'll see more sets, more ungraded material, more groups of items, and a much wider range of material than you'll see in any of our competitors.
Well, I think that's kind of been great here. No, these things, like I told you before, they go fast. These short little things that we've done here. So I really appreciate you spending some time with this. I kind of going to put your information at the bottom over here, but just in case we see people listening, best way to get in contact with you. I can actually, do some editing as well and put your contact information in there, but I didn't want to do so without, your permission. But just give us some info on how people get in contact with Heritage, how they can get in contact with you, and if they have any questions, the best way to go through that process.
Yeah, so if you go to ha.com, you'll be able to find all of our information. Just go to Meet Our Experts at the bottom, and you'll be able to find me. You can also find me through Instagram, Jason_@_Heritage, and we're pretty accessible. So you'll be able to find us if you just go to our website.
And real quick, last one here. What's the next one? You got like a little bit of a break? Is like the national the next one that you're going to, or you got a couple of things that you got to do before you get to the national?
So we have a June sale that we're reaching consignment deadline for, that I am finishing writing some material. But then we also have July, and then at the national, we're going to bring some of our best material because in August we have our platinum sale, and that's where we'll sell, those $2 million cars, those $10 million items, the items that really are newsworthy. And so if you stop by our booth,
Nice.
I'll be there. My colleagues will be there. We'll answer any questions you have and take in whatever material you're looking to consign.
This has been great. Very kind of
All right.
informative. It's exactly what we were kind of like looking for. So thank you so much for helping us out. And
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not sure. I'll definitely see you at the national, but
Yeah.
I'm wondering.
Stop by.
I think
I don't think there's anything coming up. I think Hofstra and Philly are after the national.
Yeah, they're not till like it could be late August or September, October, something looking like that. But definitely.
All right.
All right, man. Really appreciate it. Talk to you soon. Take care now.
Yep, you too. Bye.
Thanks for checking out this episode of Cardboard Insights. We hope you actually like this video. If you don't mind, please give this channel a subscribe, as well as giving the video a thumbs up. And please drop a comment in the comment section below. We are aimed and poised to continue to educate the hobby on different things that are taking place within the sports card trading industry. If there's a certain topic, or if there's certain guests that you would like to see us kind of cover in the future, we want to learn about it. So give us any feedback that you can, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care.